I'll say, hi, my name's Katie, and you say, hi, my name's Fox. Okay, ready?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Fox.
And I'm Katie. Welcome back to my channel. As promised, I will be doing a review of Maud by Melanie Fishbane. I've been talking about this ever since I got this book like 2 months ago, and it's finally happening. I read this book last month in April, but I'm going to talk about it today. Oh, you're so sweet, Fox. So, Maud by Melanie Fishbane is a retelling, not a retelling, is a fictionalized account of LM Montgomery's life as a teenager.
Where's my camera?
I don't know where your camera is, honey. You're going to have to look around for it.
Someone maybe take my camera.
For those of you who don't know, but most of you probably do, LM Montgomery is the writer of Anne of Green Gables and Emily, the Emily series, Emily of New Moon, among like 20 other novels and short story collections and poetry. She was very prolific throughout her life. And of course, she dreamed of being a writer as a teenager. Probably her whole life she dreamed of being a writer and got her start during this book. Lucy Maud Montgomery went by the name Maud. She was very particular about that. Maud without an E, kind of like Anne with an E, Maud without an E. When Maud was very young, her mother died, and her father was kind of a schemer, so he did not take Maud in. He went off to try and make his fortune and eventually got remarried. So Maud goes and lives with her maternal grandparents. But when she becomes a teenager, she goes to live with her father for a year in St. Albert, I think, which is on the west coast of Canada. And, of course, her grandparents live in Cavendish on Prince Edward Island. Okay. So this book takes place around that time when Maud is a teenager living with her grandparents. She goes to live with her father for a year. It explores Maud's coming of age, coming into her own, realizing her dreams, and ultimately realizing what it will take for her to pursue her dreams. The themes that I saw in this book are themes of the pursuit of one's dreams, the sacrifice for one's dreams, loneliness, perseverance, first love, resilience. What I loved most about Maud were the things that it made me think about and realize about Maud's real life. In writing this book, Melanie Fishbane did an incredible amount of research. At the back of this book, she has both a list of references plus an extensive gratitude section where she talks about all the people that she was in contact with, all the places that she visited in order to research this book. It's really incredible, and so as you read it, you know that a lot of what you're reading is probably fact. Of course, the conversations are probably made up, but even some of that I have a feeling she took from Maud's journals, because Maud wrote every day in her journal for years and years, and so there was a lot for Melanie to draw on as she was developing this character and getting to know her, so that we really get to know her. The thing that I loved the most about Melanie Fishbane's portrayal of Maud was that you can see Maud's inspirations everywhere. Maud was as imaginative as her characters are, particularly Anne, because that's the character that I'm the most familiar with. But I think that all of her characters and all the books that she wrote reflected her in some way and also reflected some aspects of her life. In this book, she explores the idea of writing what you know. And in reading this book and seeing what Maud's life was like, and in seeing the places and the people and the names that she gives things even, you can tell that she took a lot of her own life and inserted them into her books. Now, what I find the most fascinating is that Maud's life was pretty bleak. She dealt with a lot of sadness and the feeling of being trapped. She may have been loved, but she was unwanted, for sure, by pretty much everyone in her life, and that's terribly sad. You see reflections of that in her books, but her real life was a lot more bleak than her books. I feel like in writing her books, it was sort of catharsis for her. It was sort of a way to work out her own sad history and give it a positive spin. A lot of her books have this sort of rosy filter on them, this sort of glow that life is better than the circumstances that you're put in. In some ways, I feel like her books are wish fulfillment, that her life could be played out more beautifully through the imagined lives of her characters. Because her own life was really bittersweet. It's not like her own life was without hope. It's not like her own life was without happiness, but there does seem to be this overwhelming sadness in her own life. She felt really trapped. Her grandfather didn't believe that women should have professions, let alone be educated. When she went to live with her father, she felt trapped in taking care of her father's other children and trapped by her father's wife, who was just a few years older than she was. And her stepmother was kind of like an evil stepmother. I mean, she was really kind of a witch. She treated Maud like she was a servant. In so many ways, Maud had to fight really hard for what she wanted in her life. In this book, you get glimpses of people that we meet in some of her other books. She had 2 young romances, and in those young romances, you can see Gilbert Blythe, and you see a teacher who was the only person in her life pulling and rooting for her to make something of herself, to follow her dreams. I think that those things are what make this book so worthwhile. My biggest criticism of this book is that it was written very simply, but I can't really hold that against the book because it is written for a younger audience. It is YA, and so the voice that it's written with is more simple, a lot more telling and less showing than I would have liked. Having said that, it's not badly written. It's just not written complexly. It's not written with a lot of nuance. But I still loved the book. I still loved the things that it made me think about. I still loved learning about Maud. I loved getting a fuller picture of her, and I loved that she came to life for me. And I really loved seeing so much of the characters that are part of my soul, like Anne of Green Gables, in LM Montgomery and the real life that she lived. I'm beyond impressed at the care and detailed research that Melanie Fishbane did in portraying Maud. It's very clear to me that Melanie Fishbane has deep, deep love and respect for LM Montgomery, her life, and her writing. And that comes across in this book. So while I feel like the experience of reading the book will be much better, will be much richer if you know LM Montgomery and you know her writing, I also think that this story stands on its own. I just think you'll probably like it better if you have an attachment to LM Montgomery's work. I'm so glad that this book was written because it really pushed me to learn more about LM Montgomery. I have done so much research since reading this book about the rest of her life, and I just think that she was a fascinating and really complex person. She herself was kind of a melancholy character, but yet she was able to write these books that were so filled with zest for life and joy. To see where it all began was really a treat. So I encourage you, if you are a fan of LM Montgomery, I do think this is definitely a worthwhile read, and along with being a good and informative story, I think that this cover is really beautiful. With that, I hope you guys are having a great week, and I will see you later. Bye!
This is my stick. Hey, I'm Fox, and I got this book. It's a bigger one.